Yo, what's up YouTube? Welcome to the channel. Today we're doing a tutorial on a first-person shooter. So right here I have an AK-47 that I got from somebody on the Dreamiverse. Now before we continue, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more videos like this. Give me some ideas in the comments down below of something you may want me to make. Maybe you don't know how to make it and you want somebody to make it. Give me that idea and I'll make it for you. So right here we have the AK-47. The next step is placing down a puppet, and basically all I'm gonna do here is just kind of just decorate the puppet a little bit, but you can make your own custom legs, all that stuff, whatever the heck you want for your first person shooter. I'm just going simple here with some gray pants and a green shirt. Now I'm gonna make the arms invisible and the head invisible. I would even go a step further and actually make them uncollidable. So after that, I'm over here making some arms for my character. You're gonna make these separate because this is actually gonna go inside of a head tracker, which I already placed down in the scene. So as you can see, I'm actually making the hand, I'm making the arms, and I'm gonna make the fingers all separate. We want the joints to be all separate for these fingers. Now I'm not using joints, but if you want to, go ahead and use those. It's actually a lot better if you do. I'm not using them just because I want to save on space, because if you use joints, usually your character is going to cost a lot more, but that's totally fine for a whole character. So if I was you, I would use the joints if you're getting a little bit more serious. I'm just making a video here, so I'm not trying to go too far here, but if I was making a game, I would put joints on that character. So right here I'm just decorating the scene a little bit, just so that way when we're running around and stuff, it's a little bit easier to see where I'm going. So right here you can see that the body looks tilted a little bit weird, but that's because I was testing out the camera a little bit and seeing how it looks, because right now I'm actually making the character feel how I want. I'm making it so that the camera looks the way I want it to, so you can see how it looks a little bit weird, but it actually looks pretty good when you're playing. Okay, so after testing for a little bit, I realized that the character that I was using is actually tilting away from the camera, mainly because it's looking at it kind of like a third person type of game. So I'm basically going to make it so that it always faces the camera, just to let it know that it's a first person shooter and not a third person. So now it will face the camera at all moments. I should also tell you that you should reduce the tilt on your character. You should also make it so that he spins really fast, so that way he can turn towards the camera very quickly. So as you can see here, I'm also fixing up the gun, and I basically looked at a Call of Duty image just because I wanted to have the gun laid out in a really good way. On the head tracker, I turned on the little dot that you see in the middle, just so that way I can put it in the right position with the crosshairs that Call of Duty has. So you can see that it's looking pretty good. And now I'm actually making my own crosshairs so that it looks pretty good. Later on, I'm actually going to spread these apart. Right now, my main focus is just making it and then centering it with that little dot, which you guys are actually going to see me do in a sec. So right now, I'm just fixing up a couple of settings here, making it look really nice, and just working around with it. So now is the point of centering. So you got to go into play mode to see that little dot, so just keep going in and out of play mode, making sure that it's in the right spot. Once you feel that it's in a decent spot, you can proceed to do any more edits that you want to do to the crosshairs. So for me, I'm just spreading it out a little bit. This is going to be pretty much the barrier of where all your bullets are going to be able to go. So the bigger you make this, the more spread you want for all your bullets. Now I'm making it pretty small. I'm not going too into it. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn off the little look at thingy and that thing right there. So now you can see it's just the crosshairs looking pretty nice, looking pretty good. All I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to start working on some effects for the walking and all that. That way he could bounce up a little bit and down like whenever he's walking, so it gives that feeling of you're actually walking and not just kind of just gliding through the air. Now all I'm going to do is put a keyframe and record the hands in the position that I put them now, because I already did all the work there. And then after I do that, I'm just going to duplicate the keyframe 3 times and then edit the center one and make it go a little bit down as if he's walking. and then I'm gonna make it so that this whole entire timeline repeats over and over and over again, so that way it gives that illusion of just movement. Now, one thing that I did wrong that I end up fixing later is the crosshairs are outside of the head tracker. That should not be. You should put the crosshairs inside of the head tracker and not have it outside of the head tracker. So if you went ahead and you did that, make sure that you fix that, put it back in, you know, center it all over again, and just make sure that it's inside the head tracker, so that way it doesn't go through walls or through floors or anything like that, and then you lose your head tracker. So at this point, I feel that the animation is pretty good, so I'm gonna go ahead and put on movement strength and put it on the actual timeline, so that way whenever I'm moving, it begins to move and all that. So once I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and shorten the timeline for these keyframes, and I'm gonna start messing around with it. As you can see, it's pretty fast because I have it set to 200 on speed. So I'm gonna go ahead and test that and put it at an area which I like. 180 was still pretty bad, so I went ahead and lowered that joint to 100, and then finally changed my mind to 120, I believe. Now we're gonna go ahead and edit this later on as well. Whenever we start doing the sprint, we're gonna make it so that he actually sprints, I believe, at 170, which should give us a pretty nice speed for the sprinting. So right here, I'm just messing around with the minutes per stride, and I'm also messing around with the jump height because I want a kind of short jump height. I don't want him to jump too high, just because like I want to give it a nice heavy feel. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and make an actual shooting animation. So right here, I'm actually just gonna put a transmitter. I accidentally put a receiver, but we're gonna switch that over to a transmitter and make it so that whenever I'm pressing R1, it's gonna transmit to an actual receiver telling it that I'm pressing R1, which then will equip to a timeline which will activate whether I'm shooting or not. So as you can see, that's pretty much what I'm doing right now. And now I'll go ahead and add the timeline. But actually, I didn't even show you guys me adding the timeline. But right here, I'm just making a little shoot animation, so that way you can see the little bit of spark that happens at the front of the gun when you're shooting. So I'm just drawing it out, and then after I draw it out, I'm gonna go ahead and edit the settings to make it look pretty nice. So as you can see, I'm increasing the light on there, so that way it looks really good. The glow's looking nice. Now I'm gonna mess with some animations on here, so I'm gonna turn that on. I like what I see. I want to speed that up, and then I'm gonna slow it down a little bit till I get just right. And once I feel satisfied with the effect and I feel like this is a nice shooting effect, I'm gonna go ahead and use it. Now by default, I want this to be invisible. Now what I basically did there is I put it inside the head tracker and I put it right at the front of the gun. I lined it up the way I wanted to. And within the shooting thing, the shooting timeline, I put some shooting sounds that I found on the Dreamiverse. And like I said before, I actually made it default invisible, and then those keyframes are just it turning on. So I kind of lined it up so that way it kind of like goes with the sound, so that it turns on whenever the sound goes off. And now I'm just adding some effects for the vibration of the remote, the vibration of the screen, just so that way it gives it a more actual good feeling of that you're actually shooting, rather than just like, you know, just holding R1 and seeing effects. So now I'm actually going to go ahead and do a sprint. So I'm just looking for the click button of L3, and there it is. Now I accidentally put it in a transmitter. I'm going to go ahead and switch that later and just directly connect it to this selector. So you guys are about to see me just put a keyframe here, and then that keyframe is just going to edit a few settings inside the actual puppet to make him move faster and jump just a tiny bit higher. And pretty much that's all I'm going to do with that keyframe there. Now I'm actually going to make it so that this animation looks better in the future, so that his arm is actually holding off to the side rather than just speeding up keyframes that already exist. I mean, not keyframes, timelines that already exist. So as you can see, you can't really notice that I'm moving faster, but I am. And the reason you can't notice is because I haven't increased the timeline. But as you can see, I just did it there. I'd increased it to 170. So now whenever I'm pressing L3, I actually start sprinting. So right now I turned it off, now I turned it on, and I'm actually sprinting. So at this point, I'm gonna make a new animation, and this is just gonna be an aim animation. So whenever I held L1, I'm gonna be able to aim the gun. Now this one's a tiny bit more complicated, just a tiny bit more complicated, but you're gonna be able to do this. Just, you're gonna have to work with going on play mode and getting off play mode. I do suggest that you actually put the timeline on your screen, rather than just coming out of play mode, going on the timeline, then going back to play mode, and then having to come back and then get out of everything and go on the timeline. So you're gonna see me do it right now. So right now I'm trying to do it the bad way, and you can see it's going on. It's pretty hard. It's not that easy to figure out where everything is supposed to be like this. So the trick is just slap that timeline on your screen like that, and now you're going to be able to stay in position while editing the first person shoot. So now I could just go here, boom, start moving everything around. Don't move your camera at all. Make sure you stay on this part right here, so that way you can see what your camera is seeing in the first person mode. So as you can see, I'm lining it up, I'm making it look the way I want it to look. Now I don't really have to do too much with the hands, because you can't really see the hands in this mode. When you're aiming like this, you can't really see the fingers. So as you can see, I really don't care. I'm just putting it where I want it to be. I just care about the general stuff that you're seeing. Now as you can see, the camera moved down a little bit, so it might look a little bit weird, but we're gonna go ahead and check it out, see what it looks like in play mode. And I just want to go ahead and make sure that these keyframes are going to be movable as well, so that way whenever I'm moving, it kind of goes up and down a little bit as well. Or at least I think that's what I'm doing. I think I just might make it so that it just goes up and down whenever I'm shooting. So I noticed that the sparks are actually in the wrong spot, so I'm going to go ahead and make them so that they're visible for me. Boom. Then I'm going to go inside and actually edit it. So I'm going in the keyframe, making sure that I edit it in the keyframe, so that way it gets moved to that spot. There we go. So I went inside of the head tracker and then moved it. Alright guys, so right now we're going to make the first person mode that we just did there. We're going to make it so that it actually works whenever I'm pressing L1. So now we're going to put a knock gate down here. We're going to attach L1 to it, but first we're going to make it so that the knock gate turns off the selector. Then we're going to make it so that the knock gate turns off the first timeline, and we're going to make L1 activate the second timeline. So you can see me doing that right there. Okay, so now whenever I press L1, you're going to see it clicks and immediately aims. The way I'm going to solve that issue is I'm going to go into my other timeline, grab one of the keyframes, put it right there like that, and then I'm simply going to edit the speed after I see that it works. So I'm making it so that I can reset this timeline whenever I press L1, and then I'm making it so that it stays inside of that final position, that final keyframe, as long as I hold L1. So there we go. Now it's a little bit faster. It feels pretty good. I'm going to edit just a slight bit. Now I feel that it feels really good, and I'm going to leave it like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and make it so that the crosshairs are visible at first, but then become invisible. This is where I realized that the crosshairs were outside of the actual head tracker, so later on I actually put it inside. I don't show you guys me putting it inside, but you do have to put it inside the head tracker, so make sure you do that. So as you can see, that gives it a nice effect. Now we're actually going to make the bullets that are going to come out of our head tracker. It's not going to come out of the gun, it's going to come out of the head tracker. And the reason you do that is so that wherever you aim, it goes there guaranteed, and you don't have a failure whenever you're aiming at something and the bullet is emitting lower than where it's supposed to, or it's just not going where you're aiming. So now I'm making it so that R1 can be detected from anywhere. And then after I do that, I'm gonna put an emitter, and I'm gonna go ahead and actually emit that bullet. But first, before I emit the bullet, I need to put a little bit of logic on it so that whenever we actually hit something with this bullet, it gets destroyed, and also so that we can detect that the bullet actually hits something, so that way that something actually detects the bullet hitting it. So we're going to use a tag, and we're going to name it bullet. And then we're going to go ahead and actually make it so that it actually gets deleted whenever it impacts something. So as you can see, we have the impact sensor, we have a destroyer. Whenever it touches anything, it immediately gets destroyed. Boom, just like that. And pretty much the bullet is done there. If I were you guys, I would add more tags and stuff around the bullet so that it's guaranteed detected. Or I would use a different method where the detector that's going to detect the tag actually detects the bullet instead, so that when the bullet impacts that detector, it immediately activates. Because sometimes if you use the method I'm using here, it'll give you a little bit of issues where it won't get detected because the bullet's moving so fast. So I would go with a different method if I were you guys. This is just the method that came up to my mind while doing this. So right now I'm just editing the settings. I'm gonna make it last 20 seconds, and I'm gonna make it emit at 0.1 seconds, and I'm gonna make it so that it has the speed of 30, but you're gonna actually see me put it at a speed of 20 first. I believe it's 20, right? No, 25. So I'm actually gonna increase that to 40, I think it is, not 30. 40 I'm gonna increase it to. So right now, after emitting the bullet, I'm gonna make it line up with the head tracker. Make sure that the head tracker has that line activated. As you can see, I have the head tracker menu open because I had just done it. And right now I'm just lining it up. You know, just go really far from the head tracker so that you can see that line get bigger. The line that's inside of the emitter get bigger, and just try to really line it up. And as you can see, I lined it up pretty good, and now it's very centered and it looks nice. Now the only thing is those bullets look huge, so we're gonna go ahead and make them smaller. And the problem is that you could see that the bullets look like they're emitting from the side, but they're not. It's just emitting from the position I was previously. So it looks like it's emitting in the wrong spot, but it's not. But now the way you fix that is you can make it emit faster, so that way you don't see it that much. So it's still emitting from the center, but whenever I move, it looks like it's emitting in the wrong spot. But it's just taking a quick second to show you that it just emitted, so it looks like it's emitting on that side. So at this point, I'm just going to edit the gun so that it goes up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Just to give it a little bit more of a realistic type of feel, like it's actually like recoiling. Now the bullets aren't really going to recoil because the bullets aren't coming out of the gun, so we can do whatever effect we want with the gun without affecting the actual bullets at all. And that's what I like about this method here. So you can see that it's looking pretty good. Ammo pickup spot, so we can go to that spot, get some ammo. Now there is a way to actually fix the bullets from looking like that, from like emitting like the way that it looks like it's emitting, but I just didn't do it in this video. It would have just been too long of a video, and I'm already having problems editing this. Like, I'm doing this all in one voice recording right now because Share Factory just has a limited amount of recording that I can do. So pretty much that's the gun right there. If you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and leave a like, and comment down below what type of videos you actually want to see. But pretty much this is it right here. You know what I'm saying? This is the first person shooter. The bullets work. All you got to do is put a detector around the enemy so that it can detect the bullets. And once you detect the bullets, you can do whatever type of logic you want with the enemies after that, make them get damaged, whatever the case may be. But you can see that it looks pretty good. I'm walking around. Now, I would make some jump animations. I would make some better sprinting animations. I would even go as far as to make some better walking animations. But since I'm not actually making a first-person game, I just wanted to show you guys how to make it for yourselves, because, you know, I love first-person games and I would love for more people to know how to do this so that they can make those games for me to play. So anyways, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end this right here. Like I said before, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. It will really help me out. This video took forever to make. It took a lot of editing, but guess what? We got through it. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Peace out.